Well, for more, I'm talking with Professor John Blaxland. He's the head of the Strategic and Defence Studies Centre at the ANU. John, thanks for being there.
Thanks for having me on the program, Jason.
John, how concerned should people be about this latest development out of North Korea?
Well, we need to firstly establish the facts, but what we appear to be seeing, ascertaining, is that this is a more significant explosion than the past. And if this is the hydrogen bomb that Kim Jong-un was talking about recently, then this is a significant increase in escalation in capability. And that presents a really significant threat, not only to South Korea, but to the world. And we need to think about, Andrew Green's clip before spoke about the competing competition between getting the intercontinental ballistic missile technology refined, and the North Koreans are well on the track to getting it where it can effectively reach mainland North America. And of course the miniaturisation of the nuclear weapons capability to be able to put on the warhead of that ICBM so that it can be effectively able to threaten the United States. But what we're seeing, if the indications are correct, is the hydrogen bomb, which, in terms of the scale of things, is a quantum leap in terms of the lethality of the potential explosion. And if that's the case, then we are seeing North Korea enter into a super league, if you like. This is an exclusive league of the thermonuclear club of only a handful of countries that actually operate at this level. Now, I suspect that that's probably separate to the miniaturisation of the nuclear weapons for the ICBM, because that is a more complex technology that is much more sophisticated, much more difficult to master. And if they are just doing that now, then they're probably not able to deliver it. But what this is a real slap in the face to President Trump in the United States, who has spoken about fire and fury. And of course, here he is basically going back to President Trump saying, come on, I dare you. I dare you. And of course, this feeds into the rhetoric that's been very important to Kim Jong-un's survival in North Korea. And I imagine in the next few hours, when President Trump's up, if he's tweeting shortly, we'll probably hear something akin to the fire and fury type rhetoric of a few days back. If that is the case, then that will reinforce the message internally to the North Koreans about how important it is to support Kim Jong-un in making sure he gets this capability complete before the Americans strike, before they attack.
John Blaxland, the earthquake was sizable. It was 6.3. What does that say about whether it was a hydrogen bomb or a different bomb?
Well, I'm not in a position to comment authoritatively on that at the moment. I'd need to look at some more of the science on it. But it does suggest that, as I say, that this is a step up. If I'm reading this correctly, this is a significant increase in the lethality and the explosiveness of the test, and that is very worrying. So we need to think about what might happen next, because the United States, the President Trump is probably thinking, look, he doesn't want to appear impotent. He's talked about sound and fire and fury, and he's probably afraid of it coming across as just froth and bubble. And if he's to avoid that, he may well be contemplating something akin to what has actually transpired in the last few days at the tail end of this major Korea-US exercise that's just completed. They flew bombers and fighter jets along the border between North and South Korea. It's conceivable that President Trump might escalate that a little bit and actually get them to fly over the border, across the border. Now that's, of course, that then puts it into a very, very dangerous space where a North Korean reaction could then trigger a counter-reaction and a quick escalation. And this is, of course, the doomsday scenario that everybody's been trying to avoid, because that is just, that would be catastrophe. And of course, President Trump's backed himself into a corner by speaking in rhetorical terms in using such extreme language. His options for more extreme language at this juncture, I don't know what other adjectives to throw at Kim Jong-un, but they've all been tried to little effect.
Sure. Well, we've yet to hear from Donald Trump, but we know that North Korea has conducted underground testing previously. The last one was last year. So what do we know about their underground testing capabilities?
Oh, well, it's quite sophisticated. And we know that not only is the testing taking place in multiple sites, but the missiles that they will be used on, if presuming they get the capability refined in the short to medium term, they're quite dispersed sites. In the past, it was relatively easy to target nuclear missile firing sites because they were liquid fueled. And to fuel a rocket with liquid fuel, you can't leave the fuel in there all the time. You've got to do it just before. And so there are clear telltale signs that satellite and signals intelligence could pick up that was about to happen. But now what we've got is solid fueled rockets that can be relocated by truck. And also can be fired from hidden spots. And we know that the North Koreans have been working assiduously for years to develop all these kind of hidden sites, firing sites. So, you know, if they're pushed, if the United States does something to push against North Korea physically in terms of the use of force, be it an overflight inside North Korean airspace, be it the sinking of a North Korean vessel or some kind of retaliation physically against North Korean assets, then we might see that we face a real risk of escalation. Now, there are pundits out there who said, oh, you know, maybe we need to, particularly in the United States, bite the bullet and just take them on. And there certainly has been a lot of planning about the prospect of doing that. But all of those plans have almost invariably come up with a very grim tally as a result of that kind of exchange. The tally being many, many people dead in and around Seoul, including the prospect of tens of thousands of Americans.
John, Kim Jong-un seems to have put off his plans to attack Guam. Why do you think he's done that, and what is his strategy now?
Well, look, I think, you know, there are pundits galore out there thinking about what it is that motivates Kim Jong-un. Firstly, I think it's important to say, and most pundits agree, he's a rational actor, but he's a deeply paranoid actor. So his actions need to be seen in that light. Deeply paranoid, but within that context, rational. And if you think about what that rationality might look like, first of all, it's about self-preservation. It's about maintaining his grip on power. And for that to happen in a country that is about to have sanctions bite, let's not forget the UN Security Council voted unanimously, with China and Russia as well, agreeing to these very significant sanctions on the North Koreans, not including oil. Of course, if you cut off oil, then basically North Koreans will freeze to death because they need it for heating. And we're going into the autumn and soon into the winter. And of course, we know that the Korean winter is brutal. It's extremely cold. So that is something that the Chinese aren't remotely contemplating as far as we understand. The question is also whether the Chinese are really prepared to impose the sanctions that they've signed up to, because it hurts them as much as it hurts the Koreans, the North Koreans. Why do I say that? Well, because the trade is between China and North Korea, so China would miss out on that trade. But secondly, the United States position is quite disconcerting for the Chinese. They don't want to see North Korea implode. They don't want to see Kim Jong-un fall from office so much. They want to clip his wings, but they're worried that in clipping the wings, you actually see the man implode and the state collapse. And of course, that is something that would be horrific, because then you've got 101 permutations of what possibly else could go wrong.
Okay, John Blaxland from the ANU, good to talk to you.
My pleasure.